Okay, let's unpack this. The chances that what we perceive with our five senses is the complete picture of reality. Dr. Joe Dispenza, he suggests it's practically zero.
Zero. Yeah.
Think about that for a moment, you. It really makes you wonder what else is out there, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
And the immediate question becomes, well, if our senses only give us fragments, what other realities, what other potentials exist beyond our normal awareness?
Right.
And this leads us straight into Dr. Dispenza's idea of the fifth dimension.
Uh-huh.
And it's not some sci-fi place.
No, not a physical location.
More like a state of being.
Yeah.
A realm of possibility that just operates outside our usual, space and time constraints.
Exactly. And that's really the jumping off point for our deep dive today.
Really fascinating conversation.
Totally. And our mission basically is to pull out the key insights, those aha moments about how you might be able to connect with this fifth dimension to maybe cultivate abundance or even experience healing just by understanding these kinds of mind-bending concepts.
So this isn't just theory, right? We're talking about potential real-world applications for you. And Dr. Dispenza's own story, it really sets the whole thing up perfectly, doesn't it?
It really does. His background, supportive family, always curious. But it was really his early look into hypnosis that sparked his fascination with the mind's power.
He saw it working firsthand.
Yeah, he witnessed how it could lead to, actual tangible changes in people.
It makes you wonder, though, how that early exposure, even before his own big experience, maybe shaped how he approached things later.
That's a good point, laying a foundation.
Yeah, something he could build on when life threw him that curveball.
And what a curveball. This incredible turning point, a really life-altering accident. He was young, maybe 23, 24. This was back in 86.
Right.
Hit by a truck, broke 6 vertebrae in his spine. The medical outlook was just grim.
Paralysis was the word they used. The likely outcome.
But here's the thing. Against all the strong recommendations from the doctors, he made this radical decision: no surgery.
That just stops you in your tracks, doesn't it? What kind of inner conviction would make you go against the grain like that?
It suggests a huge amount of trust in something else.
Or just a refusal to accept that prognosis.
He actually describes it as making a kind of pact, an agreement with consciousness or some larger intelligence.
Like a deal?
Kind of. He basically said, look, if I heal from this, I will dedicate my life to understanding this connection, the mind-body thing.
Wow, that commitment right there, that's huge. It wasn't just about walking again.
No, it was a fundamental shift in his life's purpose. His whole direction changed in that moment.
But it wasn't easy, right? He talks about the struggle.
Oh, yeah. He said it was a real battle initially, just controlling his own mind, the constant stream of negative thoughts, the fear.
That sounds incredibly relatable. Who hasn't faced that when things get tough?
He had to learn really painstakingly how to get present, how to focus and give clear orders or instructions to that inner intelligence he'd made the pact with.
It highlights the discipline involved, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That conscious effort to redirect your own thoughts.
And the result, the speed of his recovery was just, astounding.
12 weeks, wasn't it?
12 weeks, back on his feet. Something the medical experts thought was basically impossible.
It's hard not to call that miraculous.
And it went way beyond just the physical healing. He said his whole perspective, his priorities, everything shifted dramatically.
That really underscores the potential power of belief, of focused intention. What part of that really stands out to you?
For me, it's the sheer guts to choose such a different path, facing those predictions, all based on some deep inner knowing. It just perfectly sets up everything he's explored since.
Absolutely. So after this profound personal experience, he's driven, right? He has to understand how it happened.
Exactly. He dives deep, starts studying, feels like neuroplasticity, the brain's amazing ability to rewire itself, and epigenetics, quantum physics.
All the heavy hitters.
Yeah, trying to unlock the science behind his own healing.
And that move from this incredibly personal event to rigorous scientific investigation, that's key. It shows it wasn't just about his story.
Right, and it didn't stop with him. He got fascinated by spontaneous remissions.
Those cases where people just get better, unexpectedly.
Yeah, from really serious conditions. He ended up traveling all over 17 countries, interviewing hundreds of people who had these kinds of seemingly miraculous recoveries.
He wasn't just looking for one-offs then. He was searching for patterns.
Exactly. Common threads, universal principles, maybe.
And what did he find? Because you'd think diet, lifestyle.
That's what's so interesting. Those factors, the ones we usually focus on, they weren't the consistent thing across these spontaneous remission cases.
Okay, so that challenges some common assumptions,
Yeah.
right? It points towards something else being potentially more important.
Yeah, definitely. Instead, he found these key commonalities kept showing up. First, this really strong belief in some kind of intelligence within them, something beyond their senses.
Like an inner wisdom.
Yeah, and a conviction that they could actually interact with it, connect with it.
Which echoes his own pact, doesn't it? That sense of connection seems vital.
Totally. Second, they all had this profound shift in how they wanted to live if they healed, like a whole new vision for their future.
Okay.
And here's the crucial part. They started living that way, aligning with that vision, before the physical healing actually happened.
Wow. So embodying the future self now, that's powerful. He's like aligning your inner world with the outcome you want.
Exactly. Third, they somehow managed to break the habit of being their old selves.
Wow.
By becoming really conscious of their unconscious thoughts, behaviors, emotions, that whole 95% that usually runs on autopilot.
So self-awareness is critical. Bringing the unconscious patterns into the light so you can actually change them. Makes sense.
Fourth, they actively worked to overcome those stress-based emotions, the anger, resentment, fear.
The ones that keep us stuck.
Yeah, and they recognized how addictive those emotions and the whole stress response can be.
If you think about it, being stuck in those emotions keeps your body in that fight or flight mode constantly, which surely can't be good for healing.
Right. They realized holding on to that stuff basically gives your power away and keeps your body physiologically stuck in the past.
Like being trapped by old emotional patterns.
Forgiveness was another big one.
Forgiveness.
Yeah, but not just saying sorry, more like releasing the emotional charge tied to past events, letting it go fully.
Which frees up energy, right? Energy that can then go towards healing and creating something new for yourself.
Exactly. Leads to wisdom, freedom, and finally, just making a conscious choice to change, which he says is often the hardest part.
Why the hardest?
Because our bodies, our biology, tends to resist the unfamiliar. It likes routine, even if that routine isn't serving us anymore.
Homeostasis.
Mm-hmm.
The body wants to stay the same, even if same means sick or unhappy. That's a real hurdle.
So these people made this fundamental internal shift. And this leads right into his core idea. Your personality.
How you think, act, and feel.
Right. That combination actually creates your personal reality.
That's a huge concept to really absorb. If your inner world, thoughts, feelings stays the same, your outer world probably will too.
And he stresses you have to believe in yourself to believe in new possibilities, and vice versa.
They feed each other.
Yeah, totally interconnected. One reinforces the other.
Belief really acts like a catalyst, doesn't it? It opens doors that maybe your own limitations kept shut before.
And to help build those new beliefs, he talks about mentally rehearsing new behaviors.
Like practicing in your head.
Exactly. It's like you're literally creating new neural circuits, new pathways in your brain, you just by vividly imagining yourself acting differently.
Mental rehearsal is surprisingly powerful. It primes the brain, makes the new way feel more familiar, more possible.
Then there's this other absolutely crucial piece. You have to actively feel the emotion of your desired future, right now, in the present.
Feel it before it happens.
Yes, he says this emotionally conditions your body to that future reality, and it collapses that feeling of separation, that sense of lack of something missing.
So by feeling, say, the gratitude or the joy of your goal now, you're signaling to your body, this is happening. This is real. Which can powerfully influence what manifests.
Okay, now here's where it gets really, really interesting. He talks about how when people go deep into meditation or inward focus, they often lose their sense of space and time.
That's a common report from deep meditative states, isn't it? Like stepping outside the normal boundaries of perception.
Totally. And the key player, he says, the brain region responsible, is the frontal lobe, right behind your forehead.
The brain's CEO, basically.
Yeah, he calls it the brain's volume control for the outside world, but also its creative center for imagining possibilities.
It's what lets us think beyond our immediate surroundings, plan for the future, imagine things that aren't here yet.
He explains it as creating these holographic images of potential new realities. It pulls together bits of knowledge, past experiences.
Your brain's simulating future scenarios, playing things out in the mind's eye.
And for people who get really passionate, really focused on a goal, he says a thought held in that frontal lobe can actually feel more real to them than their physical environment.
Which leads back to that emotional conditioning we talked about.
Exactly. That thought generates the feeling, which conditions the body.
So becoming absorbed in that inner vision can trigger real emotional, even physical responses.
And the frontal lobe, when you activate it with intention, can literally turn down the volume on incoming sensory data. Your awareness of your body, the room you're in, it fades.
So the inner world becomes primary.
Yes. Your thoughts and feelings become more real than anything else.
That focused inward attention lets you detach from distractions and really work on that internal landscape where the change happens.
So Dr. Dispenza didn't just stick with the theory. He moved into teaching practical methods, right? Workshops, events.
Which is so important. Taking the knowledge and making it applicable, giving people tools they can actually use.
And these events weren't just talks. He started bringing in science, measuring things.
Like what?
Brain scans, EEGs to see brainwave patterns, heart rate variability, HRV to measure heart coherence, even looking at changes in gene expression, telomeres, gut bacteria.
Wow. Okay, so bringing objective data to back up the subjective experiences people were having, that bridges the gap.
Definitely. And the events got longer, more immersive, 4-day retreats, even week-long intensives.
Giving people more time to really dive deep.
And it was in these settings, he says, that he started witnessing these just incredible transformations, stuff that even surprised him.
Like what? Any examples?
Yeah, he talks to people with diagnoses like MS or Parkinson's getting up out of wheelchairs during the events, people with severe tremor seeing them dramatically reduce.
Seriously, that's extraordinary.
I know. He calls it an inner event. Something happens inside a person's consciousness that's so profound, it triggers a massive biological shift.
Suggesting the real key isn't just external, but something deep within our own awareness and experience.
Now, for these kinds of shifts, he emphasizes two things are essential: brain coherence and heart coherence.
Coherence meaning?
Harmony, balance, like your brain having a really clear, focused intention, and your heart feeling these elevated emotions, love, gratitude, joy.
So the head and the heart working together, in sync, not fighting each other.
Exactly. He describes heart coherence specifically as this sustained, balanced rhythm in your heartbeat, totally different from the jagged, chaotic pattern you see under stress.
And heart coherence isn't just a nice feeling, right? It has actual physiological effects.
Big time. It impacts systems throughout the body, especially the brain.
How so?
He explains that when you consciously relax into your heart center, it can actually wake up the brain. It shifts brainwaves from that high-stress beta state,
The busy, anxious mind?
down into calmer, more creative alpha waves, and even deeper into theta, which is that state of deep relaxation where you're very open to suggestion.
That heart-brain connection is getting a lot more attention now in neuroscience. A coherent heart really can influence brain function positively.
And then he gets into these really fascinating synchronized brainwave states, like the very slow delta waves carrying the faster theta waves.
And linking that to superconsciousness. Gamma waves.
Yeah, states associated with heightened awareness, faster processing, really integrated consciousness.
Okay, that's getting pretty advanced.
It is. But he contrasts it with stress. Stress narrows our focus, locks our attention onto the physical world, right? The problems, the threats.
Keeps us in survival mode.
But the opposite, he says, is to intentionally take your attention off the physical, off your body, off your environment, to broaden your focus onto nothing, just sensing the space around you, the space between things.
Focusing on the formless.
Yeah. And doing that, he claims, can actually slow your brainwaves down and lead you into a state of pure consciousness, awareness itself.
Detaching from sensory input to find a deeper presence.
And this nothing, the space isn't empty. He's very clear on that. It's actually full, brimming with energy, frequency, information.
The quantum field.
That's the term he uses. He calls the moment you let go, become that pure consciousness detached from the 3D world, the eye of the needle. That's the gateway to the quantum field.
Which is like this vast sea of potential where everything exists as possibility before we observe it.
Exactly. And brain coherence, that synchronized brain state, is what allows us to tune into or entrain with that invisible field.
And the pineal gland.
He suggests it acts like an antenna. It receives these frequencies from the field and translates or transduces them into chemistry, into signals within the brain.
Interesting. The pineal gland does have links to neuroendocrine functions and is sensitive to electromagnetic fields.
And he even proposes that when our nervous system hits these high states of coherence and stays there, it can lead to biological upgrades, actual healings.
Which makes sense if you think about the body's innate ability to repair itself. Coherence might just amplify that natural process.
And crucially, they're gathering scientific data on this. They partner with the HeartMath Institute studying heart coherence.
Right, you mentioned that.
And they have ongoing research with UC San Diego, building this huge database on meditation effects.
That commitment to research is what makes this compelling, moving beyond just anecdotes.
And the findings are pretty wild. Get this. Measurable changes in gene expression in just 4 days of practice.
4 days. What kind of changes?
Upregulation of beneficial genes, ones linked to immune response, anti-inflammation, cell repair, things like that.
That's fast.
And telomere lengthening with consistent practice. Telomeres are linked to aging and longevity.
So potentially slowing down aging at a cellular level.
Seems like it. Plus, improved brain function markers after just 7 days, and significant drops in self-reported anxiety and depression.
So clear biological and psychological benefits in a relatively short time.
They even saw gene expression within a group at a week-long event start to shift towards a common, healthier norm.
A collective effect, like people influencing each other biologically.
Kind of points that way, doesn't it? And people with 63 different diagnosed health conditions reported improvements in energy, fatigue, pain levels, just from the meditation practices.
Across a huge range of conditions.
Yep.
That suggests a very fundamental level of impact.
Plus, increased production of endogenous opioids, the body's natural painkillers.
Okay.
And this is amazing. In lab tests, the plasma, the liquid part of blood from advanced meditators, showed an effect on viruses in vitro.
Plasma affecting viruses. How?
They're still figuring it out, but they even identified a specific protein in that plasma linked to enhanced immunity.
Wow. That's groundbreaking if it holds up. The idea our mental state can change our blood chemistry to fight infection.
And there's more. Novice meditators showed an upregulation of thousands of beneficial metabolites, tiny molecules involved in all sorts of body processes after just a week.
So change is happening at a really fine-grained biochemical level.
And the gut microbiome, all those bacteria in your gut.
Yeah, super important for health.
It changed significantly and rapidly within 7 days, so much so that AI algorithms trained to spot disease patterns couldn't recognize the meditators' microbiomes anymore. They became unpredictable in a good way.
That's fascinating. The gut-brain axis is huge, so rapid changes there are really noteworthy.
They even did in vitro studies, lab dish stuff, where plasma from advanced meditators inhibited the energy production, the mitochondrial function, of cancer cells.
Inhibiting cancer cell energy.
In a dish, yes. And it also downregulated genes associated with Alzheimer's disease.
Again, in vitro, but still. These are really provocative findings pointing towards potential mechanisms. Needs more research, obviously.
Absolutely. But the pattern is compelling. So when people go through these huge shifts, how do they even describe it? What's the language they use?
Good question. It must be hard to put into words.
He says initially it's often somatic, physical sensations, energy, buzzing, heat, tingling.
The body responding first.
Yeah. And then that often gives way to these really profound emotional states. Bliss, oneness, overwhelming love, often things they say are indescribable.
Our everyday language just doesn't have the words for experiences that far outside the norm.
So people end up relying on metaphor, right? Symbolic language, trying to capture something that transcends normal 3D experience.
Metaphor becomes the bridge to understanding, or at least conveying, these deeper states.
He also brings up that mind-bending point from physics that an atom is mostly empty space, mostly energy and information.
Right. We're fundamentally more nothing than something in terms of solid stuff.
Which ties into his idea that the solid 3D world we perceive is, in a way, an illusion of separation.
Created because our senses only pick up a tiny fraction of the full electromagnetic spectrum.
Exactly. We filter reality, and that filter creates the experience of solid objects in distinct separation.
And time. How does that fit in?
He suggests time, as we feel it pass, is basically the distance or separation between 2 points of consciousness, like the gap between having a thought and experiencing its manifestation.
Okay.
And he points out that in the 3D world, we often create from a place of lack. We want something because we feel we don't have it.
Which reinforces the separation, the distance, the time it takes.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But creating from the quantum field, from that 5D state, is different. It involves feeling the outcome as if it's already real.
Feeling it now.
Yeah, which collapses the space, the separation, the time between the thought, the cause, and the experience, the effect.
So you shorten the gap between intention manifestation by aligning your inner state first.
That's the idea. Which brings us back to the path to change, his mantra. believe, behave, become.
Simple, but packs a punch. Believe in the possibility, behave like it's already true, and you become that reality.
But he stresses it takes sustained effort. You have to keep revisiting your intentions, keep practicing, because it's way easier to forget and slip back into old habits.
The inertia of the old self is strong. Conscious effort is needed to overcome it daily.
That means you have to actively notice and stop the old ways of thinking, acting, and feeling that you want to leave behind.
Break the habit of being yourself, as he puts it. Recognize the automatic pilot and consciously choose a different response.
And then practice walking as it, really embodying that future self in the present moment. How would that future, you think, feel, act, do that now?
That active embodiment reinforces the new neural pathways and conditions the body faster.
He even talks about needing a kind of biological death of the old self. Letting go of those old identities and patterns is essential for real transformation.
Shedding the old skin, so to speak, can feel like a loss, but it makes space for the new.
And he notes, after people do this intensive work, they often report this profound feeling that their desired future has already happened.
Not hoping for it anymore, but knowing it's done.
Exactly. The feeling shifts from striving to arrival. It's a done deal internally.
That inner certainty must be incredibly powerful.
Circling back to that model, thought leads to energy. Energy leads to matter. He describes pure consciousness as this fertile void.
Full of potential.
And as frequencies lower within that field, that's when energy coalesces into particles, into matter.
So creation flows from the non-physical into the physical.
And he suggests that getting closer to that source, that pure consciousness, naturally reduces the feeling of separation.
Less separation means?
Faster manifestation, less distance for your intention to travel into reality.
But you have to unlearn the belief in separation, even when you're in that state.
That seems to be the tricky part. Recognizing your connection to everything, even in the vastness.
And creating from that field still requires feeling the emotion of the outcome now.
Absolutely. That emotional resonance is the key. It's the signal you send out.
And when individuals synchronize their energy, their intention, and broadcast that into the field,
that's when synchronicities happen. Those meaningful coincidences pop up, showing you're aligning with the field's potential.
Like the universe giving you feedback. Yep, you're on the right track.
And he takes it further with collective coherence. Imagine thousands of people achieving brain and heart coherence together.
What happens then?
He claims it can literally alter the energy of the surrounding field. It creates a powerful shared consciousness that can lead to measurable biological changes within the group. He points to that huge meditation they did with 8,000 people in Switzerland.
Wow. The potential impact of group intention on a large scale? That's mind-blowing.
It really is. It suggests there's this incredible energy available for miracles, for healing, when collective consciousness gets aligned.
So the core message for you, listening, seems to be this. By really understanding how reality might work, by training your mind and heart, by accessing that state of coherence, you genuinely have the potential to move beyond your current limitations.
Yeah, to create profound change in your health, your life, your circumstances.
It's shifting from feeling like a victim of circumstances to being an active, conscious co-creator of your experience.
Conscious understanding fuels the effectiveness.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Intention directs the energy.
So as you sit with all this, you maybe just take a moment, consider this. What if reality really does emerge from consciousness and energy first?
And if that's true, what becomes possible for you when you learn to consciously, intentionally interact with that infinite field of potential?
It's a pretty powerful question to leave you with.